Welcome to Subramani. 2020 is a good year to talk about volatility in the markets, right? We saw a complete whipsaw in terms of March being down by 30% and November hitting an all-time high. Volatility is not so much of a problem for the younger person. Like if you're 30 years of age, volatility cannot be too much of a problem because the amount that you have invested is not much, and what you have earned to invest is also been only 4 or 5 years income, maybe 6 years income. That's what you have earned. However, if you are 55 years of age or 57 years of age, very close to retirement, or even worse, if you're 62 and you have no job opportunities beyond this and you have really finally retired, then volatility is far more difficult to handle, which is fairly obvious because you're not going to add anything more. The falling market does not help you at all. It just increases your anxiety about what will happen to your whole corpus. How do you tackle such volatility when after retirement? Well, first of all, if you have been watching my videos and reading my blog, which is subramani.com, I've been talking of bucket theory. It's not something original that I've done, but there is internationally accepted way of investing, that is putting all your requirement for immediate short-term requirements in bucket number 1 from where you withdraw. And bucket number 2 will also have a standby for say 5 years. So if your next 5 years expenses for your day-to-day requirement is already there in bucket number 1, then bucket number 3 or 4, which is equity, can fluctuate for all it wants because you know within the next 5 years market is likely to revive. Now go back to bucket number 2 where you have another 5 years expenses, which is again a lot of debt products. Maybe 75% is in debt or 80% is in debt. Now in this case also, if you have 5 years expenses in bucket 1 and bucket 2, you actually have expenses for the next 12-13 years because your bucket number 1 and bucket number 2 are also generating some income in terms of appreciation, which also you are going to withdraw. So when you have 10 years expenses, it is not exactly 10, but along with the appreciation it is 12 or 13. So rest assured that you have 13 years expenses lying in less volatile asset classes. Yes, less yielding but less volatile asset classes. What happens is it gives you the confidence that whatever happens to my equity, it does not bother me. So this comes from a very sensible and good asset allocation, and asset allocation is very important, especially for retired people. What are the other things you can do? First, you can also revisit your withdrawal rate. At what rate are you withdrawing? Please be flexible. Don't say I will withdraw only 5% or I will withdraw only 4%. Makes no sense. In a country where interest rates are falling, they're still at 6%. Assuming you don't pay any tax, you're still going to get something like 7% in Pradhan Mantri Vriddha Yojana. Then in senior citizen saving schemes, which is with banks and post offices. So in all those places you're getting about 7%. Between husband and wife you will very likely get enough expenses for your day-to-day requirements. So you will be able to withdraw from those things. So if you have that, then revisit and say, can you withdraw 6%? Can you withdraw 7%? Maybe 7% is what you can withdraw. Maybe it is only 6% which you can withdraw, assuming both of you are at the level 1 of taxation. But the fact that you are at level 1 of taxation, it means between husband and wife you have 10 lakhs of annual income, and maybe your expenses are much less than that, right? So revisit your withdrawal rate and see whether you are withdrawing right. Don't worry too much because your equity will come back, right? So when the equity comes back, take some money and put it in bucket number 1 and 2, right? I know that the market is now not in a bad shape. Market is booming. So if your bucket number 3 and bucket number 4, which is equity and long-term debt, if they are booming, you might as well withdraw something from there and put it into bucket number 1 and or bucket number 2, right? So once you do that, maybe you have 15 years expenses, then don't bother, don't even think of touching your equity portfolio. So sitting calm is possible, and sitting calm is aided because you have enough money in the first two buckets, right? You have enough short-term reserves for your other expenses also. When you have when you have money available for 12-13 years, even in case of a medical emergency, whatever happens, assuming you have some medical emergency which is not covered by insurance, then to that extent you have enough money, because your bucket number 2 is again a lot of debt instruments from which you can withdraw. So revisiting your withdrawal rates, checking out for your intermediate requirements, and short-term and intermediate requirements are available in less volatile asset classes. That will also make you calm. I'm assuming that you have enough insurance. See, the fact that you have medical insurance and the fact that you have kept money in these two, bucket number 1 and bucket number 2, is again an insurance which you're creating against fluctuation in the market. That is the money which should be touched when the market goes down, and that is the money which should be replenished when the market is up, right? So right now, if you see that your small cap fund has given you 60% return, or your US fund has given you 30% return, I'm not saying that those are bad investments. Maybe it can continue, but believe me, these kind of actions cannot be repeated. Last 3-4 years, if you have, let's say, got 24% return in the US markets, if you got 60% return over the last 15-18 months in small cap stocks, it's a great time to be removing from those, from your third and fourth bucket, and putting into bucket number 1 and 2, right? Replenish them. That's another nice thing to do. So therefore, you will also reevaluate your equity holdings. But please remember, if you have a huge debt allocation already, in terms of if you have 15 years expenses lying in debt, your bigger worry is of underperforming the overall return and not a liquidity problem. Don't try to solve a problem which does not exist. You do not have a liquidity problem if you have money for 10 years plus, right? And that's what you have. Suppose you have for 5 years, even then there is nothing for you to worry about, because the markets always recover in over a period of 3-4 years at least, if not 3-4 months, right? And in the long run, if you see 100% of the time, 70% of the time the market is bullish, 30% times it is bearish. So the chances of leaving more money in equity and not touching it during bad times is an important skill to develop, rather than keeping on having more and more money in savings account and bank fixed deposits. It means you're underperforming. However, please also understand, if you have 10-15 crores and your expenses are 3-4 lakhs a year, just don't bother. Even if you misallocate badly, you'll still survive and do well. Yes, don't do bad stock picking. That's all. That is far more important. If you've got too much money in debt for ATC, go and put money in ELSS. If you've got too much money in equity for ATC, go and put money in bank fixed deposit. Just remember, bank fixed deposit, the amount is tax deductible under ATC when you make it. However, the interest is taxable at your taxation rate. So be careful about that. But today anyway, dividends are also taxable, so don't bother too much. Whenever you're investing in a mutual fund, make sure that you're in a growth option, so that when you withdraw, you will pay less tax rather than as dividends, right? So if you do all this, life should be far more comfortable, life should be relaxed, because you have insured your health, you have insured your short-term fluctuation by keeping assets in cash, but don't overdo it, right? So, or you say, okay, now I'm indifferent as to what returns I'm getting, my children don't need the money, so therefore if I get suboptimal returns, that's fine. Then do an asset allocation which reflects that. Maybe 70% of your money should now be in debt instruments, because you are that 70 years of age or 75 years of age. But you don't need to come down to 20% in equity just because you have turned 80, especially if your debt corpus itself is big, correct? Thank you.